there is going to be legislative battering from all sides, from the right, who don't think the legislation is hard enough, and from the left, who are talking about toughening it up as well. So clearly, the Rwanda saga is going to rumble on and on and on through the new year.
Rishi Sunak started the week in a pretty terrible position. He got his Rwanda safety bill through despite that rebellion. He's not in a great place end of the week.
To use language Mark Francois would understand, or at least Mark Francois before he started calling himself a member of the mafia, and when he called himself a Spartan, he would say that Rishi Sunak has had something of a Pyrrhic victory this week, which is to say that, yes, they passed the Rwanda bill, the government. The threat from the self-styled five families of the Tory right didn't come to pass, but it's clear that come the new year, when the wrangling over that Rwanda legislation continues, there is going to be legislative battering from all sides, from the right, who don't think the legislation is hard enough, and from the left, who are talking about toughening it up as well. So clearly, the Rwanda saga is going to rumble on and on and on through the new year. And also, as you say, Rishi Sunak has had other nasty surprises this week. The GDP figures that came out on Wednesday were much worse than expected. GDP falling by 0.3%. That's not great for the Prime Minister's 5 pledges and his hopes of running into an election on the economy is in a good place, don't ruin it. And also you have the small matter of Scott Benton, the Tory MP for Blackpool South. Another by-election almost certainly coming. Next week, of course, we'll get the result of the recall petition in Wellingborough, where Peter Bone, who returned to the Commons this week after his suspension, will almost certainly be recalled. So you have a new year package of delights for Rishi Sunak there, which mean in the country and in Westminster, his in-tray is just going to get higher and higher with, it's the proverbial advent calendar of a word I can't use in on a family radio station that both Number 10, the Tory right, have been talking about.
Very good, very good. Well, let's turn our attention to what's happening on the other side in the Labour Party. In a speech earlier this week, Keir Starmer appeared to have a little dig at Ed Miliband.
People up and down the country looked at my party, looked at how we'd lost our way, not just under Jeremy Corbyn, but for a while.
That "but for a while" is very much aimed at Ed Miliband, isn't it? But you've been writing in your column today about actually his relationship with Ed Miliband, who was obviously in the shadow cabinet.
Well, it was read and written up as a dig at Ed Miliband, but my understanding, having spoken to several people at the top of the Labour Party, that it genuinely wasn't written as much. Even though if you brief something that you might know will be received as such, the intention when writing that speech was to tell a longer story, a subtler story, a more difficult story for the Labour Party about its dislocation from working class voters in what we now call the Red Wall. And that's clearly, as I write this morning, a bigger story than one divisive North Londoner in Jeremy Corbyn or two in Jeremy Corbyn and Ed Miliband. And the great irony of how excited some people in the Labour Party, some of them close to Keir Starmer, got about how excited they got about that line and how it was interpreted, because Ed Miliband, not a popular man in sections of the Labour Party, is that one, as I write in my column in The Times this morning, Ed Miliband and Keir Starmer are as close as Keir Starmer is to any politician, and he's not very close to many politicians. He's someone to whom Keir Starmer can talk about the sort of workaday, everyday burdens of leadership. And the great irony of people seizing on that remark as Ed Miliband ruined Labour standing among working class voters is that Keir Starmer has entrusted Ed Miliband and backed the policies Ed Miliband is most closely associated with as a means of rebuilding Labour's long-term base in those places, green investment, reindustrialising these places with net zero development. And obviously there is this continued question mark about the 28 billion, the mythical 28 billion now that Labour is committed to borrowing or raising via taxes. That suggestion I heard this week, maybe a windfall tax will raise some of that money. And clearly that figure, the price tag, is under debate, but the policy itself, the agenda itself, the Ed Miliband agenda, is basically the entirety of Labour's economic plan for growth. And it's important not to lose sight of that. And I think, some people got overexcited with that perceived dig at Ed Miliband, and there's a danger of missing the wood for the trees because Ed Miliband is going to be at the very heart of a Starmer government, and the policies with which he's most closely associated will be too. And also, it misunderstands Keir Starmer and the sort of guy he is. He is someone who disdains and is baffled and even angered by the rounds of briefing against Ed Miliband and the idea that his shadow cabinet is not the nest of singing birds he might think it is. He's very personally loyal to Ed Miliband. Ed Miliband's very personally loyal to him. And I think this has been perennially misunderstood. So if you'd like to know more about that relationship, Ed Miliband and Keir Starmer, for slow learners, pick up a copy of The Times.